Hey folks, Terry here. I'm going to start doing a series of Q&As. A lot of the same questions have come up time and time again over the years, and so I've been collecting a few from my recent emails here, and I'll answer a few today. If you have a question you'd like me to address in a future episode, email me at the email address that I'll be posting at the end of this video, okay? It's all guitar-oriented stuff, so if you're not into guitars, change the channel. Here goes. All right. This is from Jay. I'm going to paraphrase this. There's been a lot of fighting about guitar finishes on the guitar forums. Yeah, right? Dig it? Come on, folks. The music is where it's at. Don't get so upset about guitars. I know you're passionate. I'm too vain to wear my glasses, by the way, during these things. I respect the fact that you're a guitar finish expert, and I'd like you to set the record straight. Does nitro lacquer really sound better than polyester, urethane, etc., etc.? Jay. Well, it's something I've seen come up a lot, too. Thanks for your kind words, Jay. Here's the fact of the matter. If we're talking about a hard finish that sits on top of the wood instead of soaking in, what the resin that the finish is comprised of, if it's a hard finish, it really doesn't matter that much for tone, okay? So a polyester resin is not going to sound different than a nitrocellulose resin, than a acrylic urethane resin, etc. What does matter is the film thickness. Now, nitro's gotten a reputation for sounding better, subjective term, because it does tend to go on thinner, and over its lifespan it will continue to shrink. It will get thinner. Therefore, the wood is less muted. If we have a thick, hard finish on a piece of wood, it's going to change the primary resonant frequency of the whole guitar. It'll shift it away from what it would sound like in the white. In the white means with no finish on it. So if we're careful about applying a polyester finish so that the finish is very thin, an acrylic urethane finish very thin, a nitro finish very thin, they're all going to sound, for all intents and purposes, identical. So why would the builder choose one over the other? There's a lot of reasons for that. Every finish is a series of compromises. There's no such thing, unfortunately, as a perfect guitar finish system. Every one of the common finish systems used in musical instrument manufacture has pluses and minuses. Now, I happen to use exclusively nitrocellulose lacquer, and it's a custom blend I mix up myself out of different lacquers from different companies, but yeah, the pluses for nitro, one of which is the repairability, the fact it goes on thin, but they all sound the same if the film thickness is the same. Okay? Thanks, Jay. Let's see what else we have here. This comes from Eric, and I paraphrase again. I've been checking out your Spitfire model. It looks really cool. How does the mini Q work? Okay, well, thanks for your kind words, Eric. The mini Q is something I've developed over the past number of years. As a matter of fact, it underwent another revision recently. And what it is, it's intended to replace the traditional tone control on an electric guitar. And in case you don't know, traditional tone control consists of a rotary potentiometer and one capacitor, generally speaking. And a lot of people get good use out of that. A lot of people don't. They don't like the way it sounds. They turn it up to 10 all the time because it's not useful to them. So my mission was to replace the traditional tone control with a more advanced, more finessed circuit that would drop right in to a guitar, no batteries. And the Mini Q is a dual filter tone shaping gizmo. That's why I call it the Mini Q, for miniature EQ. It's inspired by some classic recording console designs, also by the Pultec EQ, which is a valuable collector's item and is highly sought after by recording studios and enthusiasts. They sound fantastic. There are two filters. One I call the warm filter, which performs the same job as the traditional tone control, but in a slightly more finessed form. When you roll the warm filter down on the mini Q, there's a strange transparency left behind. You can still hear the inside of a chord. It's not just a woolly ball with a, say G major tonality or whatever. You can get the so-called woman tone that we like to get. You can roll off the top end a little bit, get jazzier type of sounds. It's a little bit clearer and more finesse than the traditional tone control. And then the second filter is the sweet filter, and that's a little bit more complex. It works on the mid-range, and of course guitar is mainly a mid-range instrument, right? So we can duck the mid-range in one direction of the rotary knob, and when we boost in the other direction, going up to number 10 on the knob, it's bringing the mid-range to the front of the sound stage, and it really makes a big difference. You can switch it in and out, true bypass, and have two presets. It's really awesome in the studio. I'm pretty stoked about it. At this point, it's not available separately. I've talked about that before. Just haven't quite got there yet, but you can get it on the Spitfire, the Carolina KT, a new model I might be bringing out as well, etc. So no batteries, more finesse than the tone control. It really, really opens up the usable sound of the guitar. It sounds, in my humble opinion, sounds very organic. It doesn't sound hype, doesn't sound like a cheap battery-driven, onboard circuit. So, thank you, Eric, for your question. Glad you dig Spitfire. All right, our last one for today comes from Ian. How does the scale length of a guitar affect its sound and playability? That's an awesome question. The scale length of a guitar is a term that denotes the distance from the nut at one end to the bridge at the other end, and thus the spacing of the frets. The shorter the scale, in general, the warmer the sound, the longer the scale, the more clear and karang, sharper sounding. Okay, that's an easy answer. It's a little more complicated than that, but short scale is a warmer tone. As we get to a longer scale, we get more karang, like a telly. That's one reason why a Les Paul can't sound like a Telecaster. They're two different scale lengths. Of course, there's a lot more to do with the differences in the sounds than just that. In terms of playability, the string tension increases as you get a longer scale. So again, back to our Les Paul, we will notice that it's easier to bend a set of 10s, on a Les Paul than it is on a Tele or a Strat. Why? Mostly because the scale length is longer on the Fender product, shorter on the Gibson. The longer the speaking length of the string, nut to bridge, the more tension we have to put on the string to crank it up to A, E, A, D, G, B, E for the 6 strings. So more karang with the longer scale length, a little bit stiffer string tension. The overtone series on the longer scale is more towards the clearer, twangier thing, and the overtone series on the shorter scale is a little bit rounded off. The high end is kind of softened up and, more orchestral string-like, perhaps. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I'm Terry McInturff. If you have any questions or comments about any of these Q&As you see, and I'm going to be spitting them out pretty often now, feel free to email me at the email address that you're about to see on your screen. Till then, all my very best to you and your loved ones.